In 2013, I became interested in bicycle frame building and started looking for ways to get started. After a little searching around, I found a frame building class at the Crucible in Oakland, California. The class required 2 prerequisites, TIG welding and machine shop, so I enrolled in those classes as well. The TIG welding and machining classes were 15 hours each, spread out over about 1 month. The frame building class, I can't remember exactly, but I recall that one being about 20 hours. At the end of these courses, I walked out with a mostly finished raw mountain bike frame. I made many mistakes on this frame, including blowing out a large hole where the top tube meets the head tube. I spent about an hour in the class learning how to fill that hole, and I eventually got it filled. I've always thought of it as my first sacrificial frame to learn TIG welding. I never intended to build it up, so the frame sat in a corner for 11 years. The Crucible class only covered TIG welding frame tubes together, and that's about it. No frame geometry, no fixturing, mitering, nothing else really. And I can't really blame them because 20 hours isn't enough to learn that stuff. But the class served me well. I walked away knowing my journey had just begun, and I was only at the very tip top of the iceberg. From there, I dove in head first and am still deep in it today. And as it goes, the more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. So in this video, we're going to build out my first TIG welded frame and learn a little more about this stuff. And if you're still with me at the end, we'll take it for a ride. I'm on a tight budget when it comes to bicycle components. I much rather prefer allocating funds to more frame building tools. So this old Marin will be sacrificed for wheels, seat post, and handlebar. The bicycle was purchased for my wife in 2002, so the wheel set is roughly 22 years old. The original tires still have tread, which give an idea of how much it was ridden. Not much. But more importantly, my youngest daughter still believes my wife is 28 years old, and if she watches this video, she'll know something's up. I purchased a single-speed sprocket kit, which is meant to be used on a free hub and cassette system, not knowing that older, cheaper bikes use a different system called free hub. Sprockets on a free hub cannot be changed out, so now I need to find a rear wheel with a cassette system. This is a head tube reamer and facing tool. I fabricated the body of this tool to save a little money, but mostly I made it for a machining experience. I did not make the facing and reaming cutters, those were purchased from Park Tool. The head tube reamer is Park Tool number 7542 and cuts a 33.9 diameter. It's meant for a 34mm headset. The facer is Park Tool number 690. It can be used for head tubes and bottom bracket shells. Heat from the welding process causes steel to distort, so to finish a bottom bracket shell, it must be faced and threads chased. For that operation, I'm using Park Tools BTS-1. I think the standard kit comes with English bottom bracket taps, and the same facer I use for the head tube. The threaded inserts provide a guide for both the facer and taps. There are a few ways to ream a seat tube, but I think the most affordable option is to use an adjustable reamer. They come in many sizes, so you'll need to find the range that is right for your seat post. The tap wrench was custom made with mild steel round. It is also possible to purchase a large tap wrench. I recommend going no smaller than a 24-inch handle end to end. Sometimes cheaping out on tools will waste more time than the money you think you're saving. This 3D printed headset press is a good example of that. The top press collar was a tad large for the top headset cup. I had to turn its diameter down a bit so that it would seat properly on the cup. This was only my second time using the tool, but this run was its last.
Oh, come on.
I put the old wheel set back on, and it felt really strange to do so without knowing how things would line up. As I mentioned earlier, I had nothing to do with this frame's geometry. After a quick inspection, it looked like whoever designed this frame did a good job. I had to put things on pause for a few days as I waited for more parts to arrive. I had a wheel set on order, but I was pretty sure I made a mistake and got the wrong axle size. In the meantime, the Shimano cassette hub I ordered had arrived, and I began the process of lacing this hub to the existing rim. Then the so-called track wheel arrived. Turns out the axle is 135 millimeters. After inspecting the rim width, it appears to only be about 1.5 millimeters more narrow than my current rim. So the tire went on, and I'll use this wheel for now. The first step to notching a C-tube is to drill the relief hole. Centering this hole can be tricky, so I designed a 3D printed guide. Now it's ready for notching. I prefer the hacksaw method to get things started. Another 3D printed guide will help me keep the cut on center. A hacksaw blade will not get me to the width needed for this notch, so I've stacked 3 blades in the saw. I made a little oopsie by nicking the rear wishbone, but it's very minor and some rust over the years will eventually cover it up. To mitigate any mistakes, I'll cover this area to protect it. And protection for the front of the C-tube seemed like a good idea as well. But I couldn't really cut much further without contacting these 2 points, so out came the rotary tool. And I brought out the tiniest file I could find as the cherry on top for the frame building purists out there. And now it's time to add cantilever brake bosses. I'm not going with disc brakes because it seemed like overkill for my application. I purchased the bosses from Bicycle Frame Supply. I'm not affiliated with BFS. They don't know about this mention in the video, but I'm sharing because I like their store, they have lots of parts, and their service is top notch. I already had a simple brake boss fixture, but decided to 3D print some parts to make it a little easier to use. I'll be adding some aluminum collars to secure the bosses to the fixture. Three tacks on each boss, and then I'll remove the fixture for final welds. Currently, the drivetrain has 16 teeth in back and 42 up front. This ratio is too high. I know because I couldn't help myself and went for a test ride off camera. I've got a 32 tooth chainring and some larger cogs for the back on order. After a few rides, 20 teeth in back, 32 in front felt good. I'm riding intermediate, single track at Tuttle Park in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'm new to mountain biking, so please go easy in the comments.
No worries, thank you.
This was my third time around the trail because of technical issues the first few rounds. So by this final lap, I was cooked. But it was very fun, and I'll try to make a habit of getting out on these trails. And becoming a better rider has me excited to keep going. That's all for now. Stay humble, and I'll see you guys in the next one.